Thank you, Sarah. And I would like to add my personal welcome to those of you that are joining us for the first time. We hope that you will find this useful and join us in the future for our webinars. For those that have joined us previously and you're here again, welcome back. What we're going to talk about today is marketing your mentoring program to achieve success. It's really important to do that. And the way we're going to get that accomplished is we're going to talk about actually creating your marketing plan. You know, what is it that you should be doing? What are the tasks that should be included? And then we're going to talk about how to create awareness to your program for managers, for mentors, for mentees, for executives, for all individuals that will be effective by the program. And then specifically recruiting mentors and mentees, reporting on your marketing program success, and then most of all, keeping the program alive. Many organizations begin with a bang, but then they forget to keep that program alive. So we're going to talk about those. You know, most organizations have a comprehensive document or a blueprint that outlines the company's advertising and marketing, initiatives for the coming year. It describes activities involved in accomplishing very specific marketing objectives within a certain time frame. You really should have the same type of plan for marketing your organization's mentoring program. Unfortunately, many organizations feel that if they just provide some communication about the program, they've actually marketed it. Well, that's not exactly true. A communication plan and a marketing plan have two different focuses. So we're going to take you through some specific steps today and provide examples of how to successfully market your mentoring program and what you do. Now, one of the things that Sarah mentioned in the very beginning was talking about we're going to talk about some of the common scenarios and how we have seen organizations be successful. But there's also ways that we have seen when there's a problem. If you don't plan ahead and marketing your program, what begins to happen is you don't have enough mentors recruited, because that's one of the biggest obstacles you have. And because of that, your stakeholders really are not going to see any value to what's going on. Then that leads to not having enough relationships to even get a return on investment that you're looking at. And then ultimately what happens is the program is dropped. So these are kind of the things that we see with organizations that just want to kick off and get started and not even think about a marketing plan for their mentoring program. So at this point in time, Sarah, will you take us through our first poll?
Sure, Judy. Our first poll is, what is your primary need to market your mentoring program? Is it to recruit more mentors, to recruit more mentees, enabling mentoring as part of organizational culture, to increase the number of mentoring partnerships, or we do not have a marketing plan yet for our mentoring program? It looks like 18% have voted, over 50. Okay, 82% have voted. I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. So Judy, it looks like our primary need is for enabling mentoring as part of organizational culture at almost 50%.
Okay, that's really great, because one of the things that we really want an organization to do is to make mentoring part of their culture. If you do that, you're in good shape. But we want to make sure you've got a good marketing plan in place to be able to do that. So thank you, Sarah, for those results. Okay, so here are some steps to help you in creating your marketing plan. First of all, you've got to define those overall benefits. Who in the organization is going to benefit from having a mentoring program in place? Why will it benefit them in what they're doing? You might even want to run a survey to identify the present state of mentoring within your organization. Many times you might find that there's some other mentoring initiatives going on within the organization, or have been previously, some positive, some negative, and that's going to help illustrate a focus for your plan and what you want to do. So as an example, one of the overall benefits in defining might be for your talent pipeline in doing that, and that does identify then who in the organization would most benefit. This could be, anybody. It could be your diversity group, it could be your talent pipeline, leadership development, whatever it might be. But define the overall benefits. Then identify your target audience. Who's going to be your mentors? Who's going to be your mentees? Who's going to be the advocates and the individuals that will refer people into the program? Will it be a situation where individuals are going to volunteer themselves? Are they going to be referred by others, such as their managers? Who's going to be the advocates for this? One of the first things participants want to know is who's sponsoring and supporting this program. So you've got to know who your advocates are. And then what you want to do is you want to set up the goals and objectives of your marketing program in doing that. The goals of the marketing program itself, and these should definitely support the overall organizational objectives that you have already defined for your mentoring program. But remember, this is about looking at the goals and objectives of your marketing plan. So here's an example. By Q1, 500 employees are enrolled, where 300 are mentors, and 200 are mentees, and 100 partnerships are created. It's just an example of a goal for your marketing plan and what you're doing. Now, the next thing we want to talk about in creating your marketing plan is looking at your channels of distribution. One of those is probably going to be in email. Unfortunately, that gets to be the one many times that is all an organization uses. Email is the most common, it's the easiest, it's probably the most cost-effective way to market your program. And again, what we find is many times that's all that organizations do. So I want to give you some additional suggestions on doing this. How about your career portal and being able to market on that as you go forward? This could be through your LMS, it could be through your intranet, it could be a company portal you've got going, but make sure you don't miss the opportunity to let everybody know about mentoring in the organizational career portal. The other thing you might think about is manager referrals. Now, manager referrals for the mentoring program, it can be very effective because chances are someone who is a prospective participant, whether it's a mentor or mentee, may first go to their manager to ask about the program. So that can be a great channel of distribution, but you've got to make sure that your managers have a very clear idea of what is going on and what the program is about. You want to do that because you need to have a consistent communicated message about the program, making sure everybody is on board. Another way you might want to look at that is webinars that you might want to do, just like what we're doing here. That might be a lunch and learn type of thing, whatever it is. But the point is you can run several very short webinars to kind of explain the program and its objectives and so on. Also, don't forget organizational events. We've seen many, many times, and I'm sure many of you have had this happen, and that's either in the lobby of your building or your offices or in the cafeteria, and you'll see that there's tables laid out. And, based on the fact that there's a certain event that's going to be going on, this is a great way to advertise your program, to let people pick up information and literature to sign up, whatever that might be. And then make sure you think about your internal news. That could be newsletters, or, it could be, external. In doing this, and possibly in your company newsletter, your company business plan that you put together and you advertise, but make use of those. We have one organization that we work with, and they have a spot in their monthly newsletter that goes out to everybody, and it's called Mentoring Matters. And they are in that spot every month with success stories, with new information about the mentoring program, and then, of course, always, look at how the people sign up and so on. But, the best way is to make sure you do a combination of channels in doing that. Because the more channels you use, you raise the chances of getting the best quality mentors, mentees, supporters, and you're looking at a higher level of engagement in doing this. So here's some examples of some things that we're talking about. This could be an example of an event that's going to be going on. I'm sure that many of you have heard about speed mentoring, and we've done this within several organizations, and it's really lots of fun, and it's, a great way for individuals to go through. And the idea, came from speed dating, as we've all seen, but individuals are allowed to go around, meet several, possible mentors, mentees, also the possibility of actually meeting somebody that can help them get more information, whatever it might be. But again, this is an example of an event. You might have posters that you create, and these are, you want to make sure that these are displayed in areas that are very prominent. It could be a lunchroom, it could be places in the hallway, and then, you do want to make sure that occasionally you change these, and you don't want to leave them up, say, all year long. But you might want to have one, and then you might want to go through and change it in what you're doing. But again, having a poster can be a great way. And it's one of those things that, in an area that people pass every day, and, they begin to see it. It begins to become a part of their walk that they take each day. Here's another example of an event. You might want to have a networking and mentoring night in what you're doing so that people know that they can come and network, they can meet individuals, learn more about the program, whatever that might be. But the whole idea is that what you want to be able to do is create awareness, and as you're going through. And to be able to do that, you've got to create a plan. You need to set specific action steps, and each step has certain accountability and timing. You actually need to be able to do this, because if you don't have a plan in place and with specific steps and accountability, chances are that things won't get done. Now, what you're going to see on this next screen is just an example of what that might look like. And this is one we put together for an organization. Now, we have a process that we follow in helping organizations, and it's called Plan, Implement, Evaluate, and Manage in doing this. Now, in the plan phase, this is where you're kind of assembling all your instruments. You're figuring out the best level of interest and skills for participants. And, you've got a project document that includes the goal requirements, schedules of events, and so on. So that's kind of your upfront, your plan. Now, your implement phase that you want to put together is where you're actually carrying out that plan that you put together. You've got key steps, including selecting and matching and training and follow-ups and so on, and doing that. Now, at the evaluate phase, this stage focuses on efforts to gather information from participants, track progress of the individuals and the program as a whole. And most important, you've got to do this follow-up both short-term and long-term. And again, we find that many times organizations might do it short-term and they forget about the long-term in doing this. So make sure you go through the evaluate stage, that the program is going well, anybody that's got questions they're going to be able to answer, and so on. And then the last phase, manage. Figure out who needs to know what, how you're going to communicate additional information, and pretty much we suggest there's some kind of a technology tool so that your mentoring program doesn't become an administrative nightmare. So that how are you going to get your reports? How are you going to, track certain things of what you're doing? So again, this is our form that we look at, which is plan, implement, evaluate, and manage. But this is just an example of you need to have a plan that you have put together. Now, one of the things that we want to talk about in creating awareness is to create communications in doing that. You know, you've got to consider everybody these communications are going out to. Managers, prospective mentors, prospective mentees, you know, executives, whoever. And you need to figure out who needs what level of communication. And so what we're going to kind of take you through is some examples of probably a communication that's not all that good, but we have found is typical, and then one that is really good. So here's one that talks about, you know, Dear Stephen, we're looking for mentees to enroll in our program. Please contact L&D. We hope you take advantage of this. Or afterwards, you've been chosen to be a mentor. Please enroll by such and such a date. And quite honestly, both of those need some improvement in what you're doing. So, you know, they're leaving out a lot of information. So here's one that really, you know, puts together the information that's needed. It, you know, really does include the objectives of the program, you know, why the organization's even doing this. And again, if you want prospective mentors, mentees, managers to be engaged in the program, they need to understand the business reasons. Why does the organization even want to do this? Then talking about the program, again, you know, what to do, and then some of the next steps in going forward. And so here's another example in doing that. And again, it talks about, you know, here's what the program is about. You know, this is the WIFMs, or what's in it for me, why someone might want to be a mentor, and then what's required to be able to do that. And so that makes it complete in what you're doing and taking it forward. So it's great to have a communication. You just want to make sure it's a good communication in what you're doing. So at this point in time, Sarah, will you take us through our next poll?
Sure, Judy. Our next poll is, which marketing channel have you not yet considered as part of your marketing initiative? Remember, this is about what you have not yet tried. Have you not yet tried email, your organization's career portal, manager referral, webinars, or events? About half have voted, so we'll give it a few more moments. Over 80%. Looks like it's slowed down. Well, Judy, it looks like events has not been tried yet with 37%, closely followed by webinars with 33%.
Okay. Yeah, and quite honestly, these events are great because what you're doing is you're allowing individuals to actually do a little bit of hands-on in what they're doing. They can walk up to a table or a booth or whatever it is that you've put together. They can pick up materials. It's their opportunity to ask questions right on the spot, and so on. Webinars, also great. And again, as long as you're allowing people to ask questions, any concerns that they might have. You know, unfortunately, one of the things that we talk about when we talk about mentoring is, you know, the good news about mentoring is it's thousands of years old. And the bad news about mentoring is it's thousands of years old. And with that, what we mean is that there are a lot of historical perceptions and misperceptions. So in a webinar and in an event specifically, there could be a lot of questions that people have based on historical misperceptions or different, you know, types of, you know, experiences that they've had in going forward. So again, if you haven't tried webinars and events, give them a try. They're really a great way to be able to do that. Okay, so when we talk about these communications to go forward in doing this, you're going to want to, one of your prime things is you're going to want to recruit and attract mentors. And here's what we suggest you do in those communications as you're going forward. first of all, you've got to tell them why. And again, people want to know why the organization is even considering doing this. This becomes also very important as to who is supporting it, what executives are behind it, and we believe mentoring is a business strategy. It's not just a warm, fuzzy, feel-good program. It's a business strategy. And if people understand that the organization put this mentoring program in place for very specific reasons to meet specific organizational objectives, it will be much more looked at and viewed as a business strategy. So you want to make sure that, individuals who are thinking about being a potential mentor, that they understand that. And then who really is going to qualify to be a mentor? What are the competencies that are required? We define a mentor as an individual who's got knowledge or experience in a given area of expertise, who's willing to share that knowledge with another. Now, the two most important words in that definition are willing and able. The willing means that the individual who's going to be a mentor is committed to the mentee, to helping them develop in what they do. But even more important than that, the able means that this individual has got the competencies to actually be effective in the role of mentor. They've got the relationship building skills. They've got the communication skills. They've got the interpersonal skills. It's not just their area of expertise, but they've actually got the skills and competencies to be a good mentor. One of the historical misperceptions around mentoring is if somebody was good at what they did, they'd automatically be a good mentor. We're saying, no, that's not true. It takes very different skills to be good at doing something than it does to be able to share that knowledge with another. And I know all of you have known those types of individuals who were really good at what they did, but they wouldn't be a very good mentor because they wouldn't be able to share that knowledge with another. And then be transparent. Be open and honest about the expectations. Many times this can be a real plus because there are so many historical misperceptions around mentoring. Many times when you're trying to attract mentors, they have a very different perception. They're thinking they have to put in a lot of hours a month, and they feel like this could go on forever, and I just can't commit to that. So be transparent about the expectations, and what you may find is you're telling mentors, we need you for a couple hours a month. It's for a period of 9, 10, 12 months, and that not only makes it more realistic for the mentor, but they're now clear about what's going to be expected of them in doing that. So make sure you let prospective mentors know there, and then sell it. Explain the advantages of being a mentor and being in a mentoring partnership. It's such things as we have found that for mentors, it helps them obtain a renewed interest in the job. It gives them the ability to know different people, and it supports diversity and inclusion. It offers opportunity to become familiar with talent in the organization. And I can tell you that one organization we worked with, the comment that we got several times from the mentors is that they had no idea the incredible leadership talent that existed within their organization until the mentoring program came about, and they got to meet some of these people. And then also, for a mentor, it really does create a sense of self-satisfaction by knowing that you're contributing to the growth and development of future leaders and ultimately the organization. So these are the things we feel are important when you are communicating to recruit mentors. Now, what about the mentees? When you are trying to attract mentees, and some people have a feeling that, well, anybody wants to be a mentee. But, mentees need to understand their level of obligation because we believe that mentoring partnerships should be mentee-driven. So make sure that mentees understand that. Explain again what the organizational objectives are and why this is important to the organization in doing this. Make sure that they understand who this is going to be focused on. And it's those individuals who have career goals that can be supported by the mentoring program. Now, when we talk about career goals, please be sure that everybody understands there's nothing about the mentoring program that is about promotion. Again, one of the historical misperceptions around mentoring is if someone's in a mentoring program, they're automatically going to get promoted. We're saying, nope, that's not what mentoring should be about. Mentoring is about development. And if an individual receives development and it helps them to take on more complex assignments, that's great. But it is not an automatic promotion. It's about development. And then again, be transparent about the expectations. Letting them know what it means that they are responsible for driving the mentoring partnerships. The mentor's role is to guide, but as a mentee, their role is to drive the partnership. Also let them know, what are you looking at as far as time commitments? You know, we said to the mentors, you know, a couple hours a month. But for the mentee, it could be a little more than that because the mentor might suggest a type of assignment or something that the mentee could get involved in that would take a little more of their time. But again, make sure that the mentees understand that this is not something where they're just going to sit back and get fed. They have an obligation and they need to be engaged also. And then sell it. Make sure mentees understand they're going to receive individualized attention. They can gain insights on formats, processes, shortcuts, results, and so on. It also gives them a sounding board, somebody to bounce ideas off of. And it provides a safe environment to experience and practice new skills and competencies and knowledge areas in doing this. So make sure when you're recruiting mentors and attracting mentees that your communications are clear. So at this point in time, Sarah, would you take us through our next poll?
Sure, Judy. Our third and final poll is, which challenge have you encountered the most when marketing your mentoring program? Is it creating a marketing plan, creating strategic communications, receiving executive buy-in and advocacy, finding time or resources to market your program, creating events such as Q&A, brown bag meetings, etc.? So far, about 40% have voted. Just give it a few more seconds. All right, looks like voting has stopped. So Judy, it looks like 29% have encountered problems with creating events, followed by 26% receiving executive buy-in and advocacy.
Okay. Actually, that creating executive buy-in and advocacy is very important, and we find that comes up quite a bit. But again, creating events is actually usually kind of closely tied. If they can't get the executive, they probably won't be able to get the events in doing that. Okay. So what we're going to talk about now is we've talked about some of these, challenges you may have encountered: the marketing plan, strategic communication, executive buy-in, finding resources, or creating events. And so what we're going to do is talk about a couple of things that we can offer to you to help you in going through and doing this. First of all, we have a workshop. We actually have a marketing and communication workshops. And we help you create meaningful and strategic communications by identifying those benefits for mentors and mentees, the expectations and requirements to be a mentor and mentee, and some of the best internal communication channels for your unique program. Now keep in mind, we've been doing this for over 30 years, working with organizations throughout the world. So these are the types of examples that we've got and practices that can really help you in what you're doing. Also, we can help in your implementation and rollout. When your internal teams are ready to roll out your marketing plan, this is how we can help you. We can help you by creating a marketing project plan and to really identify those critical steps in doing this. Also help you develop a series of communication templates, again, based on your specific plan. We can also help you liaise with your communication team for implementation of the marketing plan, and including developing and advising success and feedback reporting, and most of all, planning your next steps. What do we need to do within what timeline of doing this? So again, part of this comes from how long we've worked with organizations throughout the world and being able to share these types of best practices with you. So thinking in terms of going through all this, then one of the things you want to think about is how are you going to report your marketing success? Well, in the very beginning, one of the things you might want to do is when individuals enroll, ask them. Just ask them how they heard about the mentoring program. You know, was it based on an event? Was it based on an email? Was it based on a poster? You know, what were some of those channels of distribution that you had before? You know, did they just word of mouth? How did they hear about it? That's going to begin to tell you what are the channels you're using that really are giving you some marketing success. And then you want to be able to actually do some reporting. The number of participants, the number of partnerships that were created, the number of actual mentors versus mentees in what they're doing. So, you know, this is best done if you've got a piece of technology that will help you to do this in going forward, because that way you don't have to count. That way the work is done for you in taking this forward. As I mentioned before, the technology really helps your program from becoming an administration nightmare in what you're doing. And then, I mentioned this before, you have got to keep your program alive. You have got to make sure that you have organization-wide communications. You know, one of the things that we suggest is you send out some kind of a communication each month. It could be, again, I mentioned this one organization that has a part of their monthly organizational newsletter called Mentoring Matters, and doing that. So it could also be a part of a company magazine, anything like that. We have other organizations, and what we help them to do is to, every other week or once a month, whatever they decide to do, to send out certain tips. And what that does is, first of all, it keeps mentoring top of mind for the mentors and the mentees, but it also maybe reminds them and helps them about certain things that might come up in doing that. In addition, you know, thinking about those mentoring communications, you know, you need to figure out ways to interact with individuals in your, you know, mentoring portal, whatever it is you decide to use in your technology, and making sure that you can, you know, get them back to the portal with communications that are going to be there, messages, making sure that they can look back on tips and so on that will help them in their partnerships as they go forward. And then figuring out how to build a mentoring culture. One of the best ways that we suggest you do that is by starting individuals with a mentoring partner as soon as they become a new hire in your organization. Combining mentoring and onboarding can be really great, and we actually ran a webinar on this, and you can find that on our webpage about mentoring and onboarding. Incredibly effective, and also makes a new hire be much more engaged with the organization because they feel like the organization really cares about them. Another great way, share success stories. And one of the things that you are going to see in the chat box right now is a link that Sarah is putting up to, you know, really, you know, look at some ways in which an organization has been sharing how mentoring has really helped them. So Sarah has put that link in the chat box in doing that. In addition to that, you know, looking at recognizing those individuals that are in the program, because these are the individuals who have taken the time to mentor. They understand the strong value proposition for them and for the organizations. And they're also the ones that are driving retention in your company. They're breaking down pockets of isolation and championing your future workplace in doing this. So at this point in time, we want to talk about those areas where Insala can really be of assistance with you. First of all, one of the things that we offer is a workshop called MORE. MORE stands for Mentoring, Organizational Readiness, and Effectiveness. And it is a strategic planning workshop to really help the organization understand what it's like to roll out a mentoring program, making sure you've looked at organizational objectives, making sure that you know how to measure results. We believe you should measure mentoring. And also making sure you've thought through all of the elements to ensure you're going to have success. Another thing that we can do is to help you with your matching and pairing criteria. And again, that's always going to go back to whatever your organizational objectives are. All along the way, we provide consulting, and we help organizations in many, many ways. The marketing workshop is a perfect example of that. Working with organizations, if they're running, having a issue of some kind, how to get them back on track and what they're doing. And then training. We offer training for mentors, for mentees, for managers and supervisors, and for program administrators. And we do this in workshops, we do it in webinars, whatever works best for your organization. And then we also offer the technology. The technology is, again, your guarantee that your program is not going to become an administrative nightmare. And it does help with the matching and pairing, which is usually one of the biggest things we find organizations want help in. But far beyond that, it helps in your communications, it helps in your tracking, it helps in your reporting, and many times it's a difference in someone asking a question and you being able to give them a report or an answer immediately and having to say, let me get back to you in a couple of days, because you have to get all that information together. So again, these are all the ways in which Insala can help you in doing this. So at this point in time, we're going to start with some questions that we've gotten from the participants. Sarah?
Hi, Judy. The first question is, would you adopt the same approach for marketing a coaching program?
Yes, I think I would in doing that. The difference is you have got to be clear about the differences between coaching and mentoring. And one of the things that we do in our strategic planning workshops and in our training workshops is talk about those differences. What's a coach? How's that different than a mentor? What's coaching? How's that different from mentoring? But I would say probably pretty much the same things. The idea is you're marketing almost like a product, and your product is either coaching or it's mentoring. So I think we're talking about a process here in being able to market that. So I would think it would be the same thing.
Thanks, Judy. The next question is, what happens if an employee complains about too many communications?
This is something that we hear and we all experience. Let's face it. We all go through and we see a communication and an email and it's like, okay, I can skip that one till next time. Or I'll do it, at the end of the week or when I've got time or whatever it might be. I think one of the biggest things you can do, I know in our technology tool, one of the best things that it offers is if you send out a communication, you also can get a report. And that report will tell you who's opened the email, who has deleted the email without even opening it, and who has not opened the email and doing that. But one of the things that we talk about, and again, we've all lived with this. It's like, oh my gosh, all these emails. So the biggest thing that I would suggest is try using those other distribution channels. Don't only rely on emails in what you're doing. When we do, information programs even, we talk about 3 or 4 different ways to get that out, the word out. So, some people are going to read the emails. Some people you're going to be better off, getting them through webinars, another one through some kind of an event, another one through a newsletter. I mean, you have got to remember emails are not your only area of distribution. And, you know, hey, we've all been there in doing that. So, okay. Go ahead. Next question. It's very, very common, Sarah.
Thanks, Judy. The next question is it possible to run an effective mentoring program without having mentoring software? If so, how?
Yes, it is. You can do that, but one of the things that we hear from organizations, and let me give you an example. Last year I had an individual came from a financial institution, and they had to be able to match 100 mentor and mentee pairs. That's a lot. And so I would say if you're looking at matching and pairing alone for anything over about 50 pairs, that's hard, because you're going to get to a point where, you know, are you really doing the best matching and pairing in what you're doing? So yes, it is possible. It's possible to track and report. The question is, do you want to in doing that? We've even had organizations come to us that did this on spreadsheets and doing that. But their complaint was that when it came to running a report, then they had to suddenly go to about 3 or 4 different spreadsheets in trying to get the report together. So in answer to your question, yes, it is possible. You have got to think about the manpower that's involved in being able to do that. And one of the things that you're going to see that is an attachment to this webinar in doing this is a book that we have as a PDF copy, and it talks about the return on investment in having a mentoring partnership or having a mentoring program in place. And, you know, how much you're going to be investing if you don't have technology and resources and time and so on. So I encourage you to look at that PDF attachment that, again, is available to you. It's a part of this webinar. It's under attachments. You can click on it and download that return on investment document. So yes, you've got to make that decision if you've got the resources, time, and effort to do it.
Thanks, Judy. The next question is, in our pilot mentoring program, we have found our partners have had trouble finding regular times to meet. How would you suggest we overcome this challenge in our full-scale mentoring program?
One of the things that we do when we go through and we do training with mentors and mentees is we take them through what we call a mentoring agreement. And this is a document that the mentor and mentee need to talk about at the beginning of their partnership. And it really is designed to say, how are we going to make sure that this is a beneficial experience for both of us, both the mentor and mentee, in doing this and taking this through. One of those areas has to do with meetings. And our tips and tools that I go through and really stress, and the reason I really stress them is we have found many times if an organization's having problems with the program and with the partnerships, it's because of the meetings, and they just haven't tackled that issue. We really stress during the mentoring agreement that the mentor and mentee sit down and talk about how often they're going to meet and under what conditions, meaning are they always going to meet face-to-face? Is it going to be always a distance mentoring partnership? Is it going to be a combination of the both? So talk about how often they're going to meet and under what conditions. And as soon as they decide how often they're going to meet, we suggest they get it on the calendar on a recurring basis. The reason that becomes important, if you don't get it on the calendar on a recurring basis, something is always going to come in and take its place. And then next thing you know, you have it met for 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 2 months in what you've done. Get it on the calendar on a recurring basis. The other reason that we suggest that you do that is I'm sure everybody here has been in a situation where you are thinking about, you've become a part of a project team or committee or something like this, and you're supposed to meet, every other Thursday. And the first couple times you do that, it's something new, and it does seem like it's an extra thing on your to-do list. But after about the third time that you make this meeting, it's ingrained in you. It's a habit. It's a part of what you do, and you don't even think about it. You just know every other Thursday that you're supposed to meet. And like I said, it becomes a habit. It's just natural. And we've all been there. I was doing some training last week with an organization, and we kind of broke them up into teams, and this was one of the areas we talked about. And someone in there made that comment. They said, absolutely, they're supposed to meet with their manager, who happens to be overseas, not in the U.S., they're overseas, and they know they have this meeting every Tuesday. And they don't even think about it. It's just somebody, says, hey, I'd like to have a meeting. It just automatically clicks in. I can't do it on this time because of this meeting. It's just something that's always there. So kind of the answer to that question is make sure you identify how often you're going to meet, under what circumstances, and then get it on the calendar on a recurring basis. Best piece of advice I could give you.
Thanks for that, Judy. The next question is, how do you manage the situation where executives are not really committed to the mentoring program, overtly saying that they are, but in reality they're not encouraging their teams to undertake mentoring?
Wow, that's a rough one. Yeah, because they are saying out loud, yeah, I support it, but they're not doing it. The biggest thing that we find where this is an issue is they don't look at mentoring as a business strategy. They're still looking at it as a warm, fuzzy, feel-good program. You have got to make sure that everybody looks at this as a business strategy, and that they are willing to really understand that the development of their people is a business strategy and what they're doing. I think the biggest thing you've got to do is possibly send out a survey, an anonymous survey, and find out what's going on. At this point in time, and again, one of the things that we found with one organization is where they were hearing a couple of comments, and the HR and L&D function were hearing a couple of comments, and kind of assuming that this is the way everybody on the executive team felt. And what they found out is, it was just a couple of people. So the majority of executives were really on board with the program. I mean, you're not going to know this until you investigate a little bit. But the other executives were really on board. And the idea then was to work with all of the executives to find out ways to really push and get everybody on board. And then many times what we find is if somebody's saying, yeah, I think this is a good idea, but they're not really supporting it, has to do with some historical misperceptions or some type of experience that they have had. So the first thing you've got to do is you got to find out what's going on and why they're doing that, and then get on board those individuals that are really accepting it and really promoting it. And also, there's nothing like success. Success breeds success. So get those success stories in there as best you can.
Thanks, Judy. The next question is, what are your thoughts on matching pairing versus encouraging participants to seek out proactively and organically?
Part of that is what we call informal mentoring. And quite honestly, informal mentoring is going on inside your organization now all the time in doing that. So, seeking out people themselves organically, it happens anyway, and it's going to continue to happen. One of the things, and I say one, it's a couple of things that we believe are the big differences between a formal mentoring, where there's some structure that's involved, and informal mentoring is the fact that in informal mentoring, number one, you have no way of knowing if the time and effort that the individuals are spending is really helping the organization. You have no way of knowing if the goals and objectives that the mentors are working on is helping the organization. And probably worst of all, you have no idea bad habits are being passed on. The main reason that we suggest that there's a little more structure, and keep in mind when we use the word structure, we're not using it as a verb to so structure the relationship between the mentor and mentee or the program that nobody can get anything done. We're using the word structure as a noun so that people understand what their role is. They understand what the objectives of the program are. They understand, what's expected of them. They understand where to go to get help. They get some training, all these types of things. So when you're looking at, informal mentoring, am I really getting the best person for me based on my needs? Let's just say I want Sarah as my mentor. Sarah and I have known each other. We've got a great relationship in what we're doing. But Sarah may not be able to give me the development I need. And that's what mentoring is about. So adding a little more structure to the matching and pairing, and it doesn't mean that you have to do the matching and pairing. It means the individuals can self-match in what they're doing. But having a little more structure to that really could be the difference in getting a really okay mentoring partnership and mentoring experience and getting the very best mentoring experience out of this. We just believe that the organization and the mentors and the mentees are going to get the most out of it if there's a little more structure to it.
Thanks for that, Judy. Well, it looks like we're about out of time. Judy, do you have any final thoughts?
I do. What you're seeing on the screen now is if anybody would like to get in touch with me, my email is there. In addition to that, there's a link there on Time Trade. If you would like to set an appointment that we can discuss things in a little more, please go to that Time Trade link in doing that. But most of all, what I would like to do is we hope that you will go to our website, and that what you're going to be doing is you will be looking for our new ebook that we are offering to organizations about setting up and marketing your mentoring program. So again, it's a brand new book, a lot of great information in there, 4 steps to help you really set up your mentoring program and ensure it's going to be successful in what you're doing. So I encourage everybody to go to the website and look for that new ebook in doing that. So at this point in time, if we don't have any final questions, I would like to thank everybody for their participation. And again, we welcome any comments about the program or any questions that you might have. Sarah?
Thanks, Judy, and a big thank you to everyone for attending today's webinar. If you'd like a copy of today's slideshow or a recording of today's webinar, you can find links to both on our Mentoring Thought Leaders group page on LinkedIn later today. If we were not able to get to your questions, or if you think of any additional questions, comments, or feedback, please feel free to email us at info.insolid.com, or you can contact Judy directly through our email, jcorner@insolid.com. We truly value your feedback on our webinars. Thanks again for coming, and have a fabulous day.